Hello, let's talk about The Proud Tower, the portrait of the world before the war from 1890 to 1911. 8 essays kind of spanning not really the world, this is more Europe and the US. This was a book that I kind of squeed over once I discovered because I love Barbara Tuchman's work from A Distant Mirror, which is all about the 13th century Europe. Um, but I am starting a project. I have been going on a project of my 1901 project where I'm reading into the era of like 1890 to 1910. This is all centered around my grandfather's birth in 1901. I was like, okay, that's the center point, and I'm just doing 10 years before and 10 years after because I want to kind of read into this era of of this man that who was born in this time, and then there's the intervening world wars, societal change, technological change, and just like what was that like, what was it like at that point in what was the world like at that point in history, and doing that through historical books like this, like books that are just talking about the period, and also trying to read contemporary works of people who are writing at that time to try and get the real feel for what it was like, through the eyes of those people, as well as through very talented historians like Barbara Tuchman. Now, this is a collection of essays, and so yeah, it is selective. Tuchman says in the beginning, he's like, yeah, there's so much else I could have written about. She's selected certain things, and let me just detail what those are. So there's 8 of them, but some of them kind of pair. We have the last hurrah of the patricians, kind of the aristocrats in Britain when like they were basically fully in command of the government. That pairs really well with the rise of the Liberal Party, which itself is sort of a transitional to like what's going to be later, kind of post wars with the Labour Party, where you get actually more kind of democratically representative government, where that following off of the patricians, actually, who I just wanted to punch sometimes for exactly how upper class, opulently rich, privileged assholes they were. You get the anarchists, which in both in Europe and in the US, this is the word and the deed being assassination, and like all the number of world leaders who were assassinated by various anarchists, very disparate group. Never, I mean, that's the thing with anarchism, at least as viewed through Barbara Tuchman, is that never they can't organize. Anyone who would want to join an anarchist party doesn't want to work with anyone else who wants to join the anarchist party. And you compare that with sort of the socialism at the end of the book, which these are the other reaction to kind of the unfettered capitalism, where and the rise of a kind of a democratic thing, of where the socialists come in and are able to actually organize and affect actual change, which actually helped workers, the lower class people, which also paradoxically kind of contradicts Marx's predictions for the collapse of capitalism, because um, human beings are able to adapt actually and make things better, and actually get the kind of rise of a better living, of unionized workers, of actual, like, limits on how long a working day is going to be, workers' rights, and that sort of thing. And we go from that chapter to the U.S. Turning to becoming the U.S. empire, and how you have conflicting forces within the United States kind of battling over, should the United States become armed and military? I mean, this is after, of course, they have completely decimated the native populations in North America, that they're now turning to the wider world, of forcing open those markets for the capitalist hunger for markets and stuff like that. We get the Dreyfus Affair, which I've been already kind of exposed to through reading The Hound of the Baskervilles, and it was very little note in The Hound of the Baskervilles, but yeah, I was already started interested in that, and just this culture war between forces, which seem to be part of it is sort of the spirit of the French Revolution, but also the countersurgency, like the counter revolution going on of people who would like kind of things to go back to maybe the aristocrats or the church or the military running things. Adding on to that, of course, massive waves of anti-Semitism, virulent, violent anti-Semitism, which would reverberate for what's happening now in the world. This very moment, definitely the anti-Semitism of this time has knock on effects. This and the patricians and what they decide to do about the Jewish question going forward. I mean, and yeah, that in itself is a very loaded term, and I should be careful about that. And then we get the Hague conferences, both in 1899 and 1907, the kind of ultimately failed attempts to stop the clear buildup of to what would become World War One. And just, Tuchman doing a good job of showing, yeah, there's people who are like, this is going to be bad, but also there's very much a strong contingent of like, no, this will be the purifying glory of battle. This will harden us. This will make us great. And how that works out, and not really well for the citizens of the world. And then there's kind of an odd duck kind of chapter at the center of this book. At least it felt odd duck to me. Section on Germany, which focuses a lot on the composer and conductor, musician, I guess, Richard Strauss. And I mean, it does show the very kind of like a cultural dominance of Germany at this time. And I mean, I guess kind of that being the music being at this point kind of like one of the uber high arts, and how Germany, that kind of representative of that, also within a backdrop of the very kind of the authoritarian tradition of Germany. You contrast it with Britain, even though it's like there's the aristocrats at the beginning, there's like transition to more and more democracy, and you see that seems to be a little less of a thing. I think this is a chapter I also, Barbara Tuchman's views on Germany, I think you have to kind of, 1965 doesn't feel too far away from World War II, that point. So it's one of these areas where I feel like I want to reread this chapter, but I also want to read more on Germany of this time from different points of view. So yeah, like Tuchman, like in The Distant Mirror, finds like kind of all these super engaging figures, brings them to life, and uses them to kind of tell about the period that she like give you a really interested, engaging portrait of this period, and kind of highlight the themes and motivations and kind of forces that are going along through the stories of these people. It's like it's excellent kind of popular historian writing. It's like this is the story writing that I love in history. I'm not really much for the dry studies. So yeah, you get people like at the beginning, you get Lord Salisbury as the kind of the uber sophisticated patrician aristocrat in England. You get Lord Bracket, Thomas Bracket Reed, the powerful Speaker of the House in England, not in England, in the United States, who is very much against the U.S. becoming an empire. He views it as, the founding fathers or whatever, the founders of his country, they revolted against the British Empire. What the hell are we doing becoming an empire ourselves? It seems like, and obviously something that he failed. It was kind of this tilting against, and you can see that in kind of the Hague conference things. But yeah, Thomas Bracket Reed really comes off as like just wow, just a really fascinating guy. Richard Strauss, definitely his portrayal there is that epitome of kind of cultural power. And you many other small and large portraits. I did find that, I think I've seen complaints like, oh, this is just like a bunch of essays jumbled together. It's like, no, I think there's been craft here. There's been, how they're paired together, how they kind of interweave, especially kind of the portrait of the patricians contrasting with the anarchists, but also the patricians, and then there's the kind of the liberal party. There's, the Strauss chapter sort of feels like it's the odd duck, like it's like it feels the most dropped in, like it would have been like maybe a more militaristic kind of chapter on Germany would have paired better with the Hague conferences. The Dreyfus affair at least kind of it feels like more of a piece because it's the political again, where yeah, it's odd. The German chapter, it's so culturally kind of the music that it seems sort of the odd duck out there. Yeah, but still, at least for me, maybe this is where I'm coming from. I was looking for an overview of this period, and I mean it's an overview of the U.S. and Europe, and very limited kind of slices. She talks about, I mean, she slightly talks about the suffragettes. She talks about kind of the empire building efforts of Hawaii and the Philippines and stuff like that within the book. But I can see like, okay, she touches on this stuff, and there's stuff like Eastern Europe, various things that could have also been. But this feels like a really good a start of me diving into this era. It's just like when you say like, oh, I want to know what the world was like in this era, that's a lot. That's a lot to go fly. And Tuchman crams in a lot here. I didn't want 5 volumes. I wanted 1 volume that got me started. It is really great because she has the sources at the back of this, and Tuchman said she was very much interested in getting contemporary sources or near contemporary sources because she wanted to avoid the kind of nostalgic, sentimental view that people after 1914 had of this era, looking back of it, basically across the trenches of World War One. She wanted to get like, this is a turbulent, bashing time. This isn't like, oh, just dinner parties or whatever. It's like, no, there was a lot going on here, and I feel like that really gave me a chance to feel that. And so yeah, I've got a lot of people that I can pick out from here and focus on more references to contemporary works. Actually, there's one that I've picked up already, which I'll be doing a review on pretty shortly, of just kind of portraits of people of this era that are like written within this era. So like like someone like Winston Churchill or the Tsar Nicholas II. Very interesting that way. So yeah, this was really a perfect thing for me for my 1901 project. And it is not going to focus on one simple thing, but if you're looking for just a kind of a portrait of this era, it feels like it's doing its job quite well, and especially that kind of that focus on the contemporary sources makes it feel like a very strong work. All right, I will leave things there. More videos later.